Nancy Pelosi is now Speaker Pelosi. I know, you're excited.
But let each of us pledge that when we disagree, we respect each other and we respect the truth. We will debate and advance good ideas no matter where they come from. And in that spirit, Democrats will be offering the Senate Republican appropriations legislation to reopen government later today. But do so to meet the needs of the American people, to protect our borders, and to respect our workers. And I pledge that this Congress will be transparent, bipartisan, and unifying, that we will seek to reach across the aisle in this chamber and across divisions across our nation. In the past 2 years, the American people have spoken. Tens of thousands of public events were held. Hundreds of thousands of people turned out. Millions of calls were made. Countless families, even sick little children. Our little lobbyists bravely came forward to tell their stories, and they made a big difference.
Oh, we know that it was the little lobbyists that she's listening to more than the big boy lobbyists.
Now the floor of this House must be America's town hall, where people will see our debates and where their voices will be heard and affect our decisions.
Oh, please.
Transparency will be the order of the day.
Okay. If you want more, if you would like more torture, I could give you more. But I have a few things to say. So, as always, I like to keep it real. I like to keep it real with the audience. So, you might not like what I'm about to say, but I am going to say it. We do have to point out that whether you agree with Nancy Pelosi, whether you don't, whether you think she's Lucifer or you don't, I do want to point out that I do think it is a good thing that a woman is Speaker of the House. I know she already was the first woman Speaker of the House. I wish it wasn't this woman, but I do want to point out that putting aside politics, we need more female leadership in the country. So I do think it is a good thing that a woman is in a leadership position, such as Speaker of the House. You might not like that I'm having to say this, but I do think we need more. We can't just have old white men in leadership. Now, I say that to point out, okay, on one hand, I'm happy. I say that even though she is 100% the wrong woman. Because what she said today, and I'm not going to bother reading you the rest, what she said today is, it's the playbook. It's all the corporate servants of the oligarchy like Nancy Pelosi and Dick Durbin and Steny Hoyer and Joe Biden, and they talk about we need to cross across the line, move across the aisle, and we need to be bipartisan, and we need to be transparent. Well, let me tell you something. Do you think Nancy Pelosi is going to be transparent and be live streaming on Facebook Live or YouTube all of the behind closed door fundraisers she and her allies, now as the majority party in the House, are going to be having with Wall Street executives starting tonight? Do you think Nancy Pelosi is going to be transparent about the fundraisers and phone calls she's having with Wall Street executives and fossil fuel industry people and big pharmaceutical industry people or big real estate developer people? Talk's cheap, Nancy. So although I do think it's a good thing that we have females in top leadership, like the men, I don't want to hear your talk about we need to reach around the aisles. We need to, have a bipartisan consensus. Nancy Pelosi and the Democratic Party, they didn't learn a damn thing from 2016. And more importantly, they don't give a shit. Oops, I cursed. There goes my monetization. When Nancy Pelosi is talking about this is going to be America's town square, we know that actually how things work isn't out in the open in the Senate or the House gallery. It's behind closed doors. I mean, for God's sakes, the DNC's lawyer in the DNC election fraud lawsuit publicly uttered the words. This is not an Onion magazine. This is not an Onion article. The DNC's lawyer said out loud, well, if we want to, legally, we could go in the back room smoking cigars and decide the candidate. I mean, it's unbelievable. And by the way, CNN, MSNBC, they are drooling. They're so happy because they love the bipartisan consensus. They love bipartisan talk. They love talk of transparency. You want to know why? Because it helps the status quo. They don't want a status coup. They want the status quo. But they want the status quo. Let me tell you, in MSNBC, CNN, the New York Times, in their ideal world, they're going to have their cake and eat it too. And let me tell you what their cake and eat it too is. Their cake is Donald Trump. Make no mistake, folks. These people want Donald Trump to be reelected because business has never been better. MSNBC, NBC, CNN, the New York Times, the Washington Post, they're Trump TV. This is basically Trump TV, and they don't want it to end. MSNBC literally just beat Fox News for the first time in 17 years. MSNBC just beat Fox News for the first time in 17 years. How'd they do it? By Trump derangement syndrome 24/7 with the side of the Cold War 2.0 and bullshit. That's how they're doing it. So they don't want Trump to lose the election. They want him to stay in office because it's good for business. What did Les Moonves, who's now been kicked out of CBS for being a pig to women and sexually assaulting women and all of his terrible stuff, what did he say in 2016? Well, I mean, Donald Trump's bad for America, but he's great for CBS. So, I mean, let's call it what it is. They don't care about informing you. They don't care about holding Trump accountable. They care about keeping controversy going, keeping the 24/7 Trump media tweet, freak out, fake scandals going. And I hate Donald Trump. I would love to see Donald Trump lose re-election, but not if it means putting back in like an Obama 2.0. Not if it means, giving the Titanic back to Nancy Pelosi, because that's not good for you and it's not good for me. We have to do two things at once. We have to take on Donald Trump, but also figure out what will defeat Donald Trump. And I got news for you. You're not going to defeat Donald Trump until you take down the neoliberal corporate Democratic establishment. So when the people criticize me, when the people criticize Jimmy Dore, when the people criticize Lee Camp, when the people criticize Jamal Thomas, when the people criticize fill in your blank, Kathy Marone, weapons of mass distraction, that is correct. When the people criticize us, do you think I'm sitting here criticizing the Democratic Party on a daily basis for my health? Do you think I'm doing it just for clicks? I'm doing it because I, and I think you, would actually like to defeat the Donald Trumps of the world, would like to defeat the Paul Ryans of the world, which, by the way, gone, finally gone. He'll be a lobbyist somewhere or like president of the Chamber of Commerce. Goodbye. We want to defeat Mitch McConnell. We want to defeat the Sarah Palins of the world. We want to defeat the Dick Cheneys of the world. The problem is we're intelligent. So the definition of insanity is repeating the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Well, you're not going to defeat extreme conservatism with neoliberalism. You're not going to defeat corporate cronyism with neoliberalism. You can't do it. Obama, the only reason Obama won, frankly, is because he was running for president at a time when the country was in flames. Literally, my nephew, if he was eligible to vote, my 4-year-old nephew, if he was eligible to run, would have defeated John McCain. It was all about Bush. And then he ran against Gordon Gekko 2.0 in 2012. I'm not saying Obama didn't have talents. I'm not saying he wasn't verbally very skilled. I'm not saying he wasn't a historic figure. This is the first black president. Whether you like him, whether you hate him, you got to give him credit. History, he did make history. But the bottom line is this. Neoliberalism has repeatedly lost over the last 20 years, and especially over the last decade, because the country, by the numbers, by the polls, by the coalitions forming, the country is, say it with me, what is the country? Is the country conservative? Or is the country, let me hear it, let me hear it, let me hear it. What's the country? Don't make me start singing. The country is progressive. Thank you, David. The country is progressive. Every poll shows it to you. Medicare for all, free college, Green New Deal, ending private prisons, ending the wars. The country is progressive. And it's honestly, it's not even close. Just like we saw in 2016, the DNC coordinating with Hillary Clinton to dismantle Bernie's campaign, WikiLeaks showed that the Obama administration was coordinating with Hillary Clinton's campaign to take out Bernie Sanders. You better believe that Nancy Pelosi, Steny Hoyer, and the corporate Democratic establishment, including, I hate to say it, Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Debbie Wasserman Schultz. So, Nancy Pelosi, do you think Nancy Pelosi and the corporate Democratic establishment are going to be sitting there cheering on Bernie Sanders' campaign? Because I got news for you. Bernie Sanders is running again. I have sources that have confirmed for me he is running again. And frankly, I don't know when he's going to announce, but I would expect him to run. I would probably expect him to announce at the end of this month or early February, his second run for president. You don't think Nancy Pelosi is going to be coordinating with the DNC? You don't think the Democratic Party? We've already seen it. WikiLeaks has shown us this. You know, these crazy Russians, you know, working with WikiLeaks. They're all coordinating together because they desperately want to dismantle, suffocate, and paralyze the exploding progressive movement in front of their eyes. That's why Nancy Pelosi, if you live in California, behind the scenes, Nancy Pelosi is the reason that single payer did not pass in California. You think the highest profile California politician in the country, if she wanted Medicare for all, you don't think it would have passed in California? It damn well would have. And I have sources that have told me that Nancy Pelosi played a huge factor behind the scenes in making sure that bill that passed the Senate in California died in the House of Representatives. You don't think that Nancy Pelosi, behind the scenes, maybe they'll be a little smarter, maybe they won't put it in their emails in case those emails are leaked or hacked or whatever you want to say. You don't think Nancy Pelosi and the corporate Democratic Party establishment misreading, mark my words, misreading the fact that they just won 40 seats? You see, Nancy Pelosi is going to look at the fact that they just won and say, look, the country has spoken. They don't want a progressive Congress. They don't want progressive change. Maybe they'll be a little smarter this time. Maybe they won't put it written in their emails that they're working with the DNC or they're working with the state Democratic parties or they're working with lawmakers state to state to try and stomp on Bernie. Maybe they won't put it in emails when they call their favorite producers and journalists and reporters at MSNBC, CNN, the New York Times. Maybe they'll just pick up the phone to plant negative stories on Bernie Sanders. Because if you don't know, and I write about this in my book, the Bernie bro myth literally was launched by the Hillary Clinton campaign. They were feeding this propaganda that they spun. It was the Hillary Clinton campaign that spun this nonsense and sold it to NBC, MSNBC, the New York Times. That's how propaganda works. It comes from the politicians. They feed it to their allies and servants in the corporate media, and then the corporate media sells it as this real and big thing. The most important thing is not what Nancy Pelosi says or does. The most important thing is not what Steny Hoyer or James Clyburn say or do, because they're her 2 and 3. The most important thing, honestly, what is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez going to say and do? What is Congressman Ro Khanna going to do? What is Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib going to do? By the way, congratulations. She is, I believe, the second Muslim woman in the United States Congress, so it's a huge, huge accomplishment for Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib. What is Congressman Raul Grijalva going to do? I like Raul Grijalva, but frankly, he voted for this package that had PAYGO in it. I don't know why he voted for that. What are the progressives going to do? Today is day one for them, so I'm going to give them a little bit of a runway before we take them on. But hey, if Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, if Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, they got elected on bold progressive pledges, not just those pledges, not just those policies, but to fight. Unfortunately, I do think in the beginning, before they were sworn in today, I'm not criticizing them, but the bottom line is, I think they played a little too nice with Nancy Pelosi, and they got kind of conned. Nancy Pelosi, to me, kind of told them what she thought they needed to hear, that she would consider this Green New Deal thing, and then she put through a select committee with zero teeth, zero substance. Members can accept fossil fuel donations and no subpoena power. So it's basically a substanceless show committee that Nancy Pelosi put through. So I ask, and I would love to know what you think, we need not just legislators, we need Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Rashida Tlaib, Ro Khanna to be half legislator and half activist. They need to galvanize the troops, because the only way you are going to get Nancy Pelosi to do anything even close to progressives is if you light an inferno up her behind, not sexist, because I say this about men too. You have to light an inferno up he or she's behind. You have to put the fear of God in them, that we are going to primary every last corporate Democrat in 2020. Every last one of them we will primary. If they don't get in line, they told us to fall in line in 2016. It's time for them to fall in line with the exploding majority of the country. Period. End of story.